Welcome to Rouse Fly Box. Today we're going to tie a pattern that is from the Pacific Northwest. I came upon this pattern watching some spin fishermen fish micro jigs for steelhead under a casting bubble, and I got to talking to them and looked at their most effective nymph, and it was a micro jig tied as variation of the greenbutt skunk steelhead wet fly. I got to thinking how that could be used for light fly, and I tied a variation of it on a standard mustad nymph hook with the variation of the materials that were available on hand. I believe I used Hairtron at the time, and it did very well in sea run cuts. Since coming back to the East Coast, I have tied it before with the original materials and the hooks, and it's done very well for me as a popper dropper for panfish and for trout as a dropper. But let's touch on a variation that I started tying recently with a little bit different material and hooks. I'm going to use a size 14 Orvis beadhead hook and a black nickel bead versus a gold one. That I have started tying with since I came back east. And we're going to start off with black 6/0 thread. Start my thread like I know what I'm doing. There you go. And we're going to run a thread base back to, not that far. We're going to bring it back to the point of the hook, because this is a curved hook, and what I started using a beadhead hook for was because if you tie it in low water fashion, or a short shank, it gives a little bit wider gape, and it drops away from the body a little bit more. I think it gave me better hookups. The next material we're going to tie in is red pheasant tippet, and we're going to take 3 or 4 strands of that, fibers of that, and we're going to tie it in at the point of the hook at the second black band, and do a couple pinch wraps, keep it on top of the hook, and then we're going to wrap back into it a little bit there, and gives you your tail. Okay, we'll nip off the butt end. The next material we're going to tie in is neon green rabbit dubbing. So we are sticking with the rabbit dubbing from the butt end. And we're going to wrap small green butt. Obviously the green butt skunk triggered off of a hot spot way back when it was originally designed, and I don't think that's changed. This is still mainly a hot spot pattern, almost like a lot like the Frenchie is for the pheasant tail. It's got that pink or orange or green hot spot on the front of the fly. The next material we're going to tie in is fine silver wire. This is extra small, and we're going to wrap back to the butt section of this pattern. And then you can tie in, I used to tie in black rabbit, but now for this fly I just do a thread body. That's all I tie in. I don't get too particular, I just build it up. Obtain an even, somewhat even taper. Make sure I cover everything. And then we're going to wrap our fine wire forward. And I'm going to wrap the whole length of this body, just evenly spaced. And take it right up to the bead, because I can cover it if I want to, and which I will. And I'll tie it off right behind the bead. That helps me lock in my bead as well. And we'll trim that wire off nice and flush. The next material, see, I'm going to bring that back into that first wrap of wire slightly. The next material we're going to tie in is black hackle. Now, I have a cheaper, you can use hen hackle if you have it, but I've got a cheaper or less quality black dry fly hackle, and I take the short hackles for this. And I strip the quills a little bit towards the end. And I'm going to tie this in wet fly fashion, because I'm going to force a taper on it either way. I'm going to force it back, but we're going to just wrap it in standard. Just going to wrap a fairly heavy collar, get 4 or 5 wraps on here, and pretty much take it right up to the bead, again just like the wire. That's a fairly heavy collar, almost like a dry fly collar, but it's not going to stay that way. And we're going to force it back. I'm going to sweep it back with my fingers and wrap back into it about a bead length back. You see that forces it back a little bit. Make sure I get all the fibers going that way. There we go. And then the last material we're going to tie in is just a small section of black ice dub. Now the difference from the original pattern is I use black hairtron in front of the hackle instead of ice dub, but I feel ice dub works so much better. I'll trim that little bit off there. And the hook is a variation. And we'll wrap back in a little bit there. You're not putting a lot there, you're just keeping that hackle back. And we'll whip finish. Oop. And there you have it. I don't know what the name of the fly is. Never did. Call it the micro skunk, just because it's a micro version of a steelhead skunk, green butt skunk. But this pattern has caught a lot of fish for me. A lot of West Coast sea run cuts, but it has caught a number of warm water fish and trout as a dropper. I believe it's because of the green hotspot. So if you're in water where a green egg is doing well, give this fly a try. It does work. I keep it in my box. It's been around for quite a while, and I've watched this thing catch some gigantic steelhead in Washington State. So fish do eat it, fish will eat it, and it does work. Hope it adds to your box. Good luck. See you on the water.